What's up guys, I'm JayJT, welcome to my channel and welcome to my Gunsmith Stats Explained series. And in this episode, we're going to be going over reveal distance. Reveal distance is a mechanic in Cold War that a lot of people have been wondering about, myself included, and I did the testing and I found out what reveal distance seems to pertain to, and it has to do with your nameplate ranges, like how far you can see an enemy's nameplate from. But it's not that simple. When you put one of these attachments on, it actually adds a new mechanic. So I know most people have probably noticed that the reveal distance for every weapon is 0 meters. This doesn't mean that you can't see enemy nameplates at all. You can still see them, but this mechanic is different from just being able to see the nameplates. This makes it to where you're able to see enemy nameplates easier without having to look directly at them. So this 0 meters is accurate. Whenever you put an attachment on, you then gain reveal distance. But let's talk about what happens without attachments first. There are two categories of weapons: assault rifles, tactical rifles, LMGs, and snipers. And then the other category is pistols and SMGs. Now with the ARs, tactical rifles, LMGs, and snipers, when you're aiming from the hip, you're able to see the enemy nameplate when you're looking directly at them. And that goes from 0 to 25 meters. But you're not able to see that enemy nameplate if you're not looking directly at the enemy. This same mechanic applies to SMGs and pistols, but instead of going from 0 to 25 meters, this goes from 0 to 20 meters, so it's 5 meters shorter. Then after 25 meters for the ARs, you can't see the nameplate or dot no matter what while you're aiming from the hip, and the same thing goes for the SMGs and pistols after 20 meters. Now when you're aiming down sight, you get an increased range to this. So with the ARs and the tactical rifles and all those, when you're aiming down sight, you can see the enemy nameplate when you're aiming directly at them between 0 to 100 meters. So this basically covers any distance on a multiplayer map. You might find some ranges outside that in Ground War though. But you will not see enemies once again unless you're aiming directly at them while aiming down sight. This is the same thing with SMGs and pistols, except for with SMGs and pistols, the range is reduced from 100 meters down to 64 meters. So you have to be within 64 meters for that nameplate to pop up while you're aiming down sight. And then after that 100 meter mark for the ARs and after that 64 meter mark with the pistols and SMGs, you are not able to see enemy nameplates, period, no matter what you do. So even though these are different, I found that the attachments in-game still function the same with any weapon, no matter what weapon you put them on: pistol, SMG, assault rifle, or whatever you want. But we're going to start off with the basic reveal distance and with the mounted flashlight. So the mounted flashlight will give you a reveal distance of 20 meters, and what this means is now between that 0 to 20 meters, you have a new mechanic where you're able to see the nameplates more easily. You still see the nameplates like always when you're aiming directly at enemies, but in the 0 to 20 meter range, you also see a red circle above the enemy's head even when you're not aiming directly at them. So when you're looking to the left or to the right of an enemy without your aim on them, ADSing or from the hip, a red dot will be above their head, a red circle. And this goes almost all the way to the edge of your periphery, so you can be aiming pretty far away from an enemy and this red circle will still pop up as long as you're within that 0 to 20 meter range. Once you get past that 20 meters, this mechanic will go away and you won't be able to see the red circle above the enemy's head when you're aiming to the sides of them, but you'll still be able to see their nameplate like usual when you're aiming directly at them from the hip or ADSing. And with the mounted flashlight and all the other attachments, this also increases the range that you're able to see this nameplate also. With the assault rifles and such, it was 100 meters before, and with the pistol and SMG, it was 64 meters. But when I tested with the mounted flashlight and all the other attachments that increased reveal distance, I tested all the way out to 130 meters, and I was able to see nameplates as long as I was directly aiming at the enemy while hip firing or ADSing. So it seems that all of these attachments increase that range. Next up, we have the Ember sighting point, and this one increases your reveal distance and hipfire accuracy, as well as decreasing your sprint to fire and aim down sight time. It increases our reveal distance by 30 meters instead of 20 meters like the mounted flashlight, and I checked this out and it does the same thing as the mounted flashlight, just extended out to 30 meters. It does increase the hipfire accuracy by around 30%. I tested this, and I tested the sprint to fire and aim down sight time, And these cons are accurate as well. It does decrease your sprint to fire and aim down sight time by around 10%. Although when you look at the sprint to fire time here on the weapon, you cannot trust that stat because the sprint to fire is just wrong in general. But we'll get to that once we go over our gun guides individually. And keep in mind, I tested all these on the XM4 as well. Then next up is the Tiger Team Spotlight, and once again we get plus 40% reveal distance with this one and minus 10% sprint to fire time. And this just gives us the same sort of reveal distance as the other two attachments, except for it goes out to 40 meters this time instead of 20 or 30 meters. So this extends out for a pretty long distance. And our con, minus 10% to sprint to fire time, I did test this and it does decrease your sprint to fire time by 10%. So these stats are accurate. And our final attachment is going to be the SOF Target Designator, and this one is a little bit different. It says reveal distance ADS. So this one does not actually give us the hip fire properties of reveal distance. It only works while we're aiming down sight. So you will always see the enemy nameplate when aiming directly at them from the hip or ADS when you're aiming directly at the enemy, no matter how far away you are. But there's no red dot or name tag from the hip unless you're aiming directly at the enemy. So like this states, you have to be aiming down sight for this one to work. And this one works from 0 to 60 meters. You'll see a red circle over the enemy head while aiming down sight, even when not aiming directly at them. You can see the red circle when aiming around halfway to the edge of your periphery. So you do have to be a little bit closer to the target while aiming down sight with this than you do with the other attachments. But this one extends all the way out to 60 meters and there are no downsides to using this attachment. And now that we've looked at all the attachments, I'll go ahead and tell you what I recommend doing with these attachments. And I'd say, to be honest, these are all very good attachments to be using, especially in Black Ops Cold War where we have extremely poor visibility. Enemies blend right in with the map, especially on satellite when they're against the satellite right there. It's absolutely ridiculous that they haven't hopped on this yet and made characters a little bit more visible. But we do have attachments right here that can help make them stand out a little bit better, and I do recommend using them to counteract that poor visibility in this game. And I would recommend using the SOF Target Designator for any of your longer range classes, for your assault rifles, LMGs, sniper rifles, and things like that. And in my opinion, the Tiger Team Spotlight is the best one to use for SMGs and everything like that, unless you're using shotguns. If you're using shotguns, then I'd probably just go ahead and go with the mounted flashlight, because you only really need that 20 meters anyway. You're going to want to be within 20 meters with a shotgun, and it comes with no downsides. Whereas the Tiger Team Spotlight, you do lose some sprint to fire time, very slight amount of sprint to fire time. So once again, the Target Designator I recommend for longer range classes, Tiger Team Spotlight for SMG classes, mounted flashlight for shotgun classes. Those are all really good choices. They'll help you find those enemies a lot better. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this video up, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope you learned something. And if you did, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below telling me what you'd like me to do next in another video. Or if there's something I missed about these attachments, then go ahead and leave a comment below about that as well. Thank you guys for watching. I'm JayJT, and I'll see you next time.